Hey everyone, welcome to the Human Cloud Podcast, the spot where entrepreneurs, innovators, and yes, you corporate warriors come to drive the freelance economy forward. So today we have Sundar. Sundar is the definition, and Sundar runs Naked Solopreneur. He's the definition of the fastest growing segment of the freelance economy, specifically 5+ year experts coming from tech or finance, people that are on the director track, choosing to go freelance over the next promotion. And so he was at Uber. He was actually a part of the Department of Treasury, fascinating background, and was finance and CS at Carnegie Mellon prior. So to put it this way, he's someone that would not worry about getting a job, but he's choosing the, in his words, solopreneur, but also fractional, but also interim. He's choosing that path and doesn't see himself straying at all in the next 1 to 5 years. And so we're going to hit on a bunch of things. I think tactically, you're really going to learn how he and fellow fractional entrepreneurs or fractional freelancers, how they operate and what they're looking for. And one of the themes is going to be autonomy. So one sort of aha moment or magic moment was when asking him, because he has a 10-month-old, when asking him, how has this changed your career and having a kid? Usually this is where we hear, okay, well, time to get a job, right? How to get a job for the healthcare and you name it. His answer was the opposite. It was, well, I need the flexibility. I want to be able to have time with my kid. I want to be able to have 3 months with just him if that's what I want. And money was not secondary, but money was there. His foundation, he knows he'll be able to have the money. So we're also going to get into how he plans to grow. So year 1's about networking, year 2's about referrals, and then year 3 and beyond, the business is stable and sustainable. So we're going to get into how he values that. And we're also going to touch on why he's well positioned to be one of the best freelancers. Specifically, it's very clear he's an expert in data science and he understands the outcomes that he can use with his clients. So if you are a marketplace founder, this is the exact person you want in your marketplace. If you're an enterprise leader, this is the exact person that'll be your fractional director, specifically your fractional head of growth. So sit back, enjoy, then go drive some change. All right, Sundar, thank you so much for hopping on. So first off, where are you sitting?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Amsterdam.
Oh my God, I'm jealous.
Yeah, we've been here for 3.5 years and we're absolutely loving it.
That explains the 8 a.m. actually. I was going to compliment you on getting up at 8 a.m., but no, I'm not.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you must be up at 8 a.m. then.
Yeah, I'm up early because I work with, we have clients all over the world. So I've noticed usually it's a 6 a.m. wake up. Sometimes, like last night was actually a 10 p.m. ending, but because PST, but that's okay. That's seldom that happens. But where's the nearest waffle station from you?
Oh, we usually go to this like market that's like probably like an hour walk. And that's where we get our waffles.
Walk? Dude,
I mean, I don't have a bike here because it's so nice to walk that I just walk everywhere.
Oh my God. So, okay. So I'll give you a little bit of context, okay? So this is probably now between 5 and 10, I'd say, guests that I've never met before. And so this is fascinating to me. And like you said, you did zero prep, which is perfect. And we gave you zero prep. So it's on both of us, but intentional. So there's a couple of reasons I really am excited to chat with you. The first is, number one, I want to pick your brain on the science behind marketplaces. I think that's going to be one common theme is we're going to talk about, what works, what doesn't work, where do you see them going? Number two, I want to look at how people like yourself, and what I mean by that is people that really didn't have to hop off the corporate ladder, meaning you spent time at Uber, you were at, was it Bloomberg early on?
Yeah, that was my first role.
Yeah. And then you also, which this is talk about perfect timing. You were at the U.S. Department of the Treasury as a debt manager, which I can't wait to just talk about that. But so there's kind of two main things. The first is the marketplace science. The second is, why the hell would someone like you get into this crazy world? And so those are the two things in my mind that I'm like, okay, I just can't wait for our listeners to learn from you. And selfishly, Sundar, this is just an easy way for me to be able to have more time with you, because I know if I wasn't recording this, you'd only give me 30 minutes. So, or maybe just 15.
I love it.
So let's start.
Yeah, you get
Yeah,
an extra 30 minutes out of me.
exactly. So let's just start with a background on yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll go back to college because I think it actually is part of the interesting story. So I went to Carnegie Mellon and I went to school. Well, so I guess originally I'm from Philadelphia. So I was born in India. I moved to the U.S. when I was one. So honestly, for all intents and purposes, I'm American. So my entire life there. I went to school in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon and majored in finance, but graduated in 2009, which is not a fun time for finance. And this crazy thing happened where Bloomberg came to our career fair and they were doing a program where they were taking people that weren't programmers and trying to make them programmers. But you kind of had to have a little bit of a background in finance. So the idea was, hey, finance, but we want software developers. So it's a really cool program. And so had the craziest interview where we were just talking about logic or talking a bunch of stuff, and then they were like, all right, well, let's get into the programming questions. I was like, I don't know how to program. And they're like, that's fine, we'll teach you. So my job started, my first career job was at Bloomberg for 2 years, where I was a programmer. Quickly realized that I loved programming, but didn't love being a programmer. So I wanted to get back into finance. And so I actually quit Bloomberg just to listen, job search, if you're switching industries is already tough enough, you got to devote your entire time to it. Almost took me a year to find something else, but I found a job at the US Treasury as a debt manager. And I got to say, it is by far the coolest experience I've ever had. And what was happening then was the US Treasury was going through a bit of a revolution where there was this old school way of managing debt. They wanted to make it a little bit more modern, bring in data scientists, data analysts. Our entire office ended up feeling like a Wall Street trading floor a bit because it was people from Wall Street, just a really, I think, high bar of quality, but people that were also interested in a bit of the public service. And yeah, I was there for 2 years and really got I was there in the thick of 2 to 3 debt ceilings where we're sitting there me as a 25-year-old building a model in Excel predicting when the US is going to default. And it's obviously very top of mind right now what's going on in the US. And it was such a cool experience. But I looked at my manager and I loved my managers, but I was like, I don't want that as my career.
Yeah.
So had another pivot and basically had a friend that was like, hey, do you know an analytical? And I was like, well, I'm analytical and numbers are numbers. You just need to teach me a little bit of business behind the numbers and I can pick it up. So went to DirecTV. I was there for 10 months as a contractor, and then Uber reached out, and then I jumped on that because I'd use them as a product. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, I was at Uber for 5 years. And we'll definitely talk into this a little bit about why I made the decision to leave corporate. But Uber was such a magical place for me. The marketing org was so full of just intelligent, driven, ambitious people, and everyone felt like they were really, changing the world. And even though 2016 Uber was still 6 years old, people still had that I'm doing something insanely cool. And then at 5 years I was like, I don't, let's try something else. I really wanted to do startups, so I went to 2 startups. Did not really work out for me. I was never able to be analytical or experimental there. It's just, I think, really hard because they were both pre-seed, seed stage companies. So they didn't either have the data, or you just found the founders had a vision and it was really hard to change that vision, even with analytics and experimentation. So in January January of this year, I got laid off and then just took 3 months to figure out what I wanted to do. And then, just decided, for the solopreneur is really what I really want to try out.
And so tell me about the naked solopreneur. Also tell me about the freelance projects that you've taken on. And specifically what I want to call out is, it's funny, Sundar, we're debating putting this on YouTube. The only reason that I'm like, okay, fine, is because we can kind of whiteboard. And so I wish I could show you listeners what this specific module on the site. I think it's like page 3 of your site. You have very, 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 very clear outcomes of what you can accomplish for each potential client. And so they are, KPIs and dashboards, flow optimization, talent tool segmentation. Dude, that's a like from a freelancer lens, you just put yourself in the top 5% just by being able to lay that out like that. So tell me about, have you been freelancing? What and naked solopreneur? What's the deal?
Yeah. So it's I'll start with the naked solopreneur thing. And I think for me, I struggle with the fact that a lot of content on LinkedIn has a heavy dose of survivor bias in it. Right.
Ooh, tell me more.
Well, I mean, everyone that you're, if you talk about like a Justin Welsh or a Saul Bloom, like they're all people that they're awesome. Like they have great content, but they're survivors.
It's like survivor porn.
Yeah.
That's actually a great way to put it. I've been trying to put a finger on why it, like, I don't know, but it's also kind of like basic stuff. Like, I feel like 1 out of every 30, I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually like I learned something. But then I look at the numbers and I'm like, wait, like, how like that many people found that? Like, I don't know, but sorry.
Yeah. No, but I do think there is a bit of that, right? Because if you're going to go to a bigger mass audience, you have to keep it a little bit more generic. But I do think their generic is now, like when they were doing it, I think like when they first started, it was probably revolutionary, but now so many people are trying to do it that it feels watched out. Like, like when I see like someone like a Justin Welsh, like do it for years, I'm like, I actually kind of like is generic. Yeah. But when I see someone else that's just started again, I was like, I don't need another thing of like, this is the advantage of XYZ. So the naked part for me, like I picked something like that, like, naked is not something people really like throw around on LinkedIn too much. Like I went that because I wanted to be super transparent. Because like to me, I'm not saying like I can't know I'm successful. Like this is literally like month 2 for me, but here's all the information. Here's my full decision-making process. Here's my complete like thought behind what I want to do, what I want to work on. And really more like my mission in life is to make people better experimenters. And a lot of people think that means just in the workplace. Like I don't want just people to be better at experimenting in the workplace. I want people to be better at experimenting in life. Like my wife and I experimented with the idea of we want to move to Europe. We think it's going to be a better life. And it's paid off in like leaps and bounds. So much so that I don't think we're moving back to the US.
Damn. And we have Chick-fil-A, Sundar. Come on. You got Chick-fil-A and cheeseburgers.
Well, I still get to come home a lot, so I still get those. But on a day-to-day, I'm pretty comfortable with feeling safer or like, things we can get into. But so that's why the naked. And that's why I think for me, it's really about just equipping people with like just all the information they have, they can make decisions. And really, like, it's been really exciting every time someone comes out and goes, hey, like, I saw your stuff. Like, I'd love to poke, like, I'd love to like pick your brain on, how did you make the decision? What was like, why did you do it? And I think that's good, right? Like, you're just almost facilitating that conversation. You're now providing and showing an option to people who may have never thought about it. And I love that, right? Like, I love the fact that people can now take more control of their lives and make better decisions. Because before, you might not have known about the option. Now you do, and then you're choosing not to do it, which is such a more powerful thing for me to be able to help people. So with freelancing, it's pretty cool. Like I decided in March, I was like, all right, yep, this is what I'm doing. I like posted on LinkedIn. I'm like, I'm doing this solopreneur stuff. A week or two later, I went to Japan for 2 weeks. And then a week later, I came back, and my boss, my first manager at Uber, like reached out. I was like, hey, are you doing interim roles? And I was like, yes. But to be fair, I didn't really know what I was doing because it was my first gig. Like I thought, actually, I think you can actually see on my website that I was really going to focus on Series A companies. But then, the company that I'm working at now is Series C. And I'm stepping in as an interim head of user acquisition. And so it's been a month and a half, and it's been great because, one, I'm getting back into work. It had been a few months since I was out. I'm really like flexing what I love doing, like analytics, experimentation, but also it's kind of cool. Like the company that I'm at called Otrium, really cool marketplace. It's the fashion marketplace. And like there's just an opportunity for me to share a lot of the experiences I've had at Uber on like, how do you become a data obsessed org? How do you get better at experimentation? Like, how do you really create this like moat through like your own internal like skill sets? And it's just, yeah, again, and obviously like financially it's like it's good too, and it gives me the runway to like know like this is sustainable or doable, not necessarily sustainable, but it's at least like doable in the short term. Like it's kind of like finding product market fit, right? It's like, okay, I've got now one paying client, which is product market fit. Like, it's early signs of product market fit. Sorry, I don't think I'm there yet, but it's like a good signal to be like, yeah, like you've got a skill set, you've got something that people are interested in. So yeah, and so far it's going great. Absolutely loving the like flexibility. And a lot of people I think don't love, like, my wife, for example, like she hates the first 6 months at a company. She's like, you got to prove yourself, you got to like build rapport. For some reason I'm like, it's the opposite for me. Like, it's chaos. Like, I get to bring in a really fresh perspective, and I'm also, I think, experienced and senior enough that I'm really comfortable knowing I'm not just like talking a bunch of crap. Like, it's coming from a good place. Like, I'm trying to like make change. And like so many people at Otrium have just been like, oh, tell me about like how you do this at Uber. Like, we want to get better on this. And it's kind of nice to be able to, part of it is my job, but part of it is also giving back and just making people just better at what they're working on.
So there's three things I take away, and it's crazy, Sundar. So your experience is something that, I've been in this for over 10 years now. And when I was doing what you're doing, how do I say this? It was culturally bad, right? Like, it made sense money-wise. I loved the impact, but I couldn't tell anyone that I was doing this like crazy little, like, I definitely couldn't say freelancing because I thought Uber driver.
Yeah.
And then they didn't understand that, wait, you don't like own an office, like you own a company, yet you don't have an office, you have no employees. That's not a company. And you're like, but like, I'm, you know, it's so when I hear this, I'm like, okay, it's awesome. But the three things that actually stand out from what you said, the first is, which is one of the, how do you say this? One of the hardest yet easiest parts of this industry. And when I say this industry, I mean the freelance economy. But your boss had said, "Hey, are you doing interim work?" That term, actually, I haven't heard in a while, but that's a new term. Usually, fractional is kind of the more like hip one in that regards. But so there's all these new charts. So the first thing you mentioned was, okay, will you take on this interim work? The two other things that you mentioned though is flexibility, and I took it away is impact. Now the flexibility, I mean, someone asked me yesterday, they were like, why would someone want to work as a contractor? And I'm like, guys, I can make 5 times what I was making at Microsoft next month if I want to, and I can live where I want and work on what I want. What more do you want? Like, do you need a commission, a massive versatility for this? It's pretty obvious. But then the second thing is, you mentioned the impact. And I think this is very tied to your idea of naked solopreneur as well, where you, from what it sounds like, you love jumping in and making an immediate impact, but also not dealing with kind of corporate politics and just bullshit where you spend so much time massaging the agenda of the meeting to then sound good in the meeting, to then get the right perception in the meeting. And then you look back after 3 to 6 months and you just go, wow, I really didn't do that much besides a bunch of emails and and agendas, right?
Right.
So I think this idea of impact is massive. Now, what do you expect going forward? Is this, hey, I'm going to do this and then become full-time in 6 months? Is this, I'm going to get 1 more client, 2 more clients? Is this, I don't know, but I'm enjoying it and I love the waffles here in Amsterdam? Like, what do you think the next 3, 6, 12 months looks like in perfect worlds?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the way I've designed my life, by the way, in general, is I plan for like 5 years, but like have always had the flexibility to change every month. Right. So to me, like, I think a lot of people struggle with, you've got this long-term vision, but you're so set on it that any like minor deviation from that derails it. And for me, I've thought about it the other way, which is, listen, you've got this like end state, like just don't define how you get there. Like, and truly my goal, like, so I'm 35 right now. Like, I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm not built to work. Like my happiness truly comes from like my wife. I have a 10-month-old, traveling, like if I could just sit here and read books on chess. Like, so what I've thought about is like, what is my ideal life and what's the way to get there? And so in the next 3 to 6 months, it's about placing really small bets that are so low risk and so low effort, but will have like signs of like fruit, like an example is obviously, so right now Otrium is my full-time client. They were 5 days a week. I just asked them if I could go down to 4 days a week because I was like, listen, I don't actually have a single day to do any more business development. And so, they're going to probably be my client for the next 3 to 6 months. But part of me figuring out is like, well, would I rather have 2 to 3 clients that are, 10 to 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours a week, but for 10 to 12 weeks, but then I do a bit more business development? Or do I like a little bit more of this interim sort of fractional style where I know it's temporary, but I can also mentor and coach, whether it's analysts or marketers, and really get to like own that. So part of it for me is figuring out this sort of like my own model, like what I'm going to be offering. Because I think part of it is also like, what's my niche? Like originally, like I said, I thought it was going to be Series A B2C marketplaces. I ended up at a Series C one. It's still going to be a marketplace. I think marketplaces for sure are where my passion is, but I'm still trying to find, is it Series A? Is it Series B, C, and also this environment, the macro environment, I think also dictates a bit of that, where you kind of, from everyone that I've talked to, like you're not necessarily being as choosy, like you're kind of like just seeing what comes to you. On the stuff that I'm taking bets on, like I actually just announced yesterday that I'm in like Maven's course accelerator to try to design a course on how do you become an irreplaceable data analyst. There's so much content about take another Python course, take another chat GPT, how will it make you a better analyst? And personally, I think it's not BS, but like the best analysts in the world are good because they're good at communicating and they're effective storytellers and they're they're just like really great stakeholders, and people treat them like partners. And so I'm just like so passionate about like, how do I share that, right? So now I'm gonna go off and do this Maven thing, try to get that going, try to get some like interest in that. Then I've obviously got like the content, just even I'm posting on LinkedIn with the broader idea of maybe in 3 to 6 months, right? Like you expand to Twitter, then you do the newsletter, like a bit, of the obvious paths, but still all around my mission of how can I make people better at experimenting, whether it's in your workplace or at life. So for me, the next 3 to 6 months are solely about experimenting, which lines up well with my own like skill set and personality too. But I told my wife, I was like, don't expect me to make like a single dollar like this year. Luckily, I've been able to make some, but the idea being like everybody knows that long-term, freelancing, consulting, solopreneur, whatever you call it, is such a better return on your investment. So why I'm not going to just forsake that like 3 to 5 year vision just because the first 3 to 6 months aren't so great. And there's got to be something that works, right? Like everyone that you see, like something works, like whether it is like I'm going to do YouTube videos or podcasts or freelancing or whatever, something works. And my job is to do these little small things to figure out what works.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So especially that quote about everyone knows it's a better ROI, which fairly recent, to be honest. I know if you told your parents that, they'd think you're crazy. So it's awesome to hear that. So one thing that when listening to this as well is and this is true with the best of freelancers, and I'm going to say freelancers, but my next question is going to be even if you what you want to be called, right? And what I mean, what you want to be called is when you're working on a remote, flexible basis, and we can call flexible contractual, but basically when you're not a full-time employee, what do you want to be called? But from what I hear, there's a very clear data science expertise. You also very clearly understand how to scope the impact that you can create. And I know that by looking at your site and the 4 boxes that you had. And you've been able to, in the past 3 months, kind of plan out a process today that's shown you early success. But the question is, what does this look like in a year? And you're mulling between the 2 to 3 clients, like you say, small bets with small effort. And I think one thing that I've personally encountered and that I've seen is people like you and us. Freelancing is kind of that base, that foundation that you might always have 2 to 3 clients, but it frees up your ability to work on the small bets, and you might end up just loving it. And so multiple times, like I love it. But so, and then super tactically, I think what you're going to end up doing, to be honest, is you're going to end up having one anchor client and then others that you provide support and maintenance. And so I don't think your good clients will never leave. It's just a question of, are we executing? Are we doing support and maintenance? And that's going to go from, is it 10 to 30 a month, or is it 2 to 5? And so you'll probably have like a couple 2 to 5s and then one anchor at 15 to 20. And it's a massive win-win for all parties. So I want to get into what do you want to be called?
If you really if I really take a step back and think about what I'm sharing, it's advice. I think advisor is like the most all-encompassing. Unfortunately, advisor makes it seem like you're not a doer, and that's the only thing I'm struggling with. But freelance more talks about the contract relationship. It doesn't say anything about your value add, or it's just solely contractor. Similarly, it's just simply the term for what is your IRS relationship with this company. That's it. So when I think of what I'm doing, I'm, to be fair, mercenary is more of an appropriate term, right? That's not, obviously you don't want to go into the war analogy, but
definition of freelancer, by the way, that's where it stems from.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. So, freelance, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, to me, I think advisor really is, because you're essentially, as an advisor, I think advisor is a good word because there's inherent trust. There's an assumption of expertise, and there's a dynamic the other way, which is I'm only getting value as an advisor if my advisee has a benefit. So when I think of this sort of freelancing type work, it's more advisor. When I think about my umbrella term, I really do think the solopreneur, it probably is getting a little overused isn't the right word. It's just becoming such a buzzword. But it is the most it's true, right? You're a solo entrepreneur, and so yeah, I don't know. It's a really good question but I think when you ask me this, is if you were to ask me what I am holistically, I'm a solopreneur. If you ask me what I'm doing when I go to clients, I'm an advisor. Just my type of advice can go. Even as a manager right now, right, I'm not. As a director of user acquisition, I'm not going in and setting up the campaigns. I'm literally advising our paid channel managers on how do we set up our strategy. It's still advice. It's still an advisor relationship. So, I don't know. That's the way I think about it. It's a really great question. I don't know. How do you think about it? What have you been hearing?
So, So I separate it by stages is what I'll start by saying, and then I separate it by what the client needs to hear and what best describes the individual. And so the first stage is just convincing a leader that part of their budget can go to a freelancer. Now, that one, I say whatever will work. And so, for example, it might be, okay, let's go with external talent, right? Rather than in-house. It might be, let's go with an independent contractor. It might be, let's go with an elastic model. That one's purely based off of how how innovative I see that individual leader. Then it gets into, okay, how are we going to structure? And then that's when I say, okay, let's structure it more based off of a freelance contract. And the reason I say freelance is it's like Churchill's quote about democracy, right? It's not the best. It's not great, but it's the best of. And so I don't know a better on that from that angle. And to me, I define freelance as, can I see the whites of someone's eyes on both ends? So if you're the person doing the work, do you know who your work is impacting? And then if you're the person directing the work, do you know who's actually doing the work? If yes, I call that freelance. If yes, and it's not a W-2, I just call that freelance. Now, on the individual side, if someone were to ask me, I would say freelance economy SME to start. And the reason for that is because it does encompass the advisory, it does encompass consulting, and it makes it very, very clear the direction that I can go. And then within that, it turns into, okay, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about product, sales, marketing, strategy, management consulting? So then there's different segments there. So where you and I differ is I have no skills. I have an industry expertise. You have very clear skills in data science. And so you can go win a data science project. I could never. I could go win a freelance economy project. You could never, as of now, get it a year. Absolutely. But I don't necessarily know. Some of the new terms are, if we were to say, like fractional sales executive, helped a company hire that last week. SAP developers, didn't matter that they were, we didn't say freelance at first, but then we said it when it came to the contracting stage. So I don't know. I really don't know. I just know that the two buzzwords that I'll happy to die on the hill is the gig economy. Fuck that word. I think it's horrendous. And then second is on demand, horrendous. And I guess the third one is, which I guess it's kind of where that whole LinkedIn influencer type falls from, but like the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week. I'm sorry, if you want that, just don't come into my orbit, because it's not how I don't know. I don't see it working well for clients or even yourself. But I don't know, man. That's kind of how I think on it. What do you think after hearing my spin? Are you like, because I would consider you, I'd say, literally to a client, I'd say, hey, you have to meet Sundar if you're having any data science related challenges. And then they would go, okay, what can Sundar do? And I would literally show them the module of your 4 boxes. And I would say, well, he can help with the workflows. He can help with the dashboards. And then we would probably scope out something like either you come in and advise, which would be more of like a T&M, like a day rate, or you'd come and you'd build the outcomes. So we'd say, can you build this dashboard for 5,000? Can you build this workflow?
I think the more I think even just hearing you talk about it, the more I realize, I don't know. I think people understand what they want, and you just need to have that conversation. I'm like, what are you looking for? And then what they end up calling you, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. The interesting thing though, is it does matter, you've been saying data scientist, and that's actually something I've been shying away from, mainly because I'm positioning myself as a growth expert that just truly understands how to leverage data analytics and data science. And the reason for that is exactly what you said. I don't want to be building dashboards. It's you can get someone far more affordable and probably knows a lot more of those dashboarding tools now. But what I could tell you is what metrics you should be looking at, so that you and your management team are looking at that weekly and then can decide where to prioritize. So that is that's where a bit of the naming stuff, I'm careful that I want people to think of me as a growth consultant. And the cool thing about me that I think is exciting is I'll both talk strategy and we can talk shop all day, but then if you do need me to go pull a SQL query, I can also go do that. And that's pretty cool.
You know what I would call you is I would actually call you a fractional growth director. And then I would scope based off of the budget or what the client's looking for. And I would say, okay, you can only afford, 2,000 to 5,000 a month at first. Well, then I'll be an advisor. Okay. You have 15 to 30 a month. Well, I'll be your fractional head of growth or whatever it is. So that's what I would call you, a fractional growth director.
This is part of experimentation. I'm going to I'll throw it on there tomorrow and just be well, let's see what happens.
Exactly. Now, do you use marketplaces? Help me understand, because I know the first one came from you're an old colleague and a boss.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think it's going to look like? Do you think it's going to look like, posting crying memes on LinkedIn every day? Do you think it's going to come from outbound? Do you think you're going to be in a marketplace? What do you think sort of your own growth path is going to look like?
Yeah, this is solely based off of what people that have been in this a few years have told me, right? Like the first year, it's going to be me just networking as much as crazy, like generally with old contacts. And the cool thing is like the Uber alumni network is so stacked, right? Like it is such an amazing group of people. Like I really like, I know Uber has gotten such a bad rap and it's unfortunate because it was like, I think pretty contained to like a small set of people, but everyone that I know is like super nice, really ambitious, really intelligent. So, I made a list of 200 people that I used to work with that I haven't been able to like, that I just wanted to connect with, not even like trying to get like work out of them. I just wanted to reach out because I had such a good time and it's like a great way to reminisce. So I think a lot of in the beginning will be within my network. Then from what I've heard, the second year, it just becomes referrals, right? So like people that you work with sort of go, hey, I know someone else with a similar problem. And then eventually, like, I think it just stays at is like because eventually you get to a point where I'm assuming now I have 2 to 3 clients consistently at every time, 1 to 2. And so I only have an opportunity to replace one once every 3 months or 6 months, in which case I should be getting enough referral um, to be able to do that. And that's what I'm guessing. I haven't really explored the outbound because I also just jumped into this one client for 4 days a week. I mean, 5 days a week, which is why I've now gone down to 4 days because I haven't even had the bandwidth to do outbound. So I'm going to try that. I think the other thing that I've enjoyed doing is I'm a part of everything marketplaces. So these communities that I really enjoy just hearing what founders and other marketplace consultants or executives are thinking about and just helping out people with their problems. So a lot of people, oftentimes it's interesting, marketplace founders or even marketplace experts that I know, a lot of them are really good at the supply side. So the operations, the supply side, there isn't a lot of expertise on the demand side. And that's where I spent all of my career at Uber. So like the demand side of marketplace is where I'm super passionate about. And so you'll see a lot of questions of like, how do I think about the demand side? Like, what do I need to, build? What do I need to track? What are the metrics, et cetera? And that's where I just love helping people. I'm like, hey, like, if you're going to think of LTV, like just do it extremely simply. Like don't complicate it, especially for the demand side. Like there's ways you can just make it super, super simple. And that's where I think I'm going to find potential. So it's kind of outbound, but it's a little bit more strategic outbound of like, I'm in a marketplace, multiple people will see me interact. So I don't have to do as much selling every time because there's gonna be people that see the value I can add from someone else. And then they'll be interested if like, oh, this is actually a similar problem that I have. So I think it's a cool balance of like a bit of a referral meets outbound.
Yeah. So what I take away from what you were saying there and actually tying it to the beginning is there's an aspect of, it sounds like mobility is the word that's coming to me. And let me describe what I mean by that. So you love reaching out to your existing network, or you love nurturing your existing network. You also love getting into the communities that you're interested in. So you mentioned everything marketplaces. Now, when you're at a full-time job and you do these things, you're kind of restricted to just your full-time job. So it's like, hey, I'd love to collaborate, but I have a moonlighting policy, and if I think that a competitor is better, I can't really tell you that. So you're restricted on paper, I guess you could say, because you can say whatever you want over a call or in person, but they can't email you on your main email, and you can't say what you want to say. So you're restricted. Now, and this is even more confused. So as more of a free agent and more of a solopreneur, you have no restrictions. The restrictions are 1,000% up to you. Now, the good news of that is you can do whatever you want. The bad news of that is some of those controls actually aren't going to be in place. So you might make some decisions that does hurt your reputation or does put you in competitive conflict. But it's up to you, right? Like you are the CEO of that. So that I love that. That's why I could never have a job, I think, is just because of that exact element. But would mobility be the right word? And that's just sort of what I was sensing, but that seems very important to you.
I don't think it's isolated to one thing. I mean, I know you had asked before at the beginning, like why I decided to. So it might just be easier for me to like jump into how I made this decision to go down this. So in January, right, like I got laid off. This is now the second startup I was at or in a row that I got laid off at. I was like, what am I doing? Like, you know, it started with here, what are my options, right? I've got 5 options. I can go to a big company like Uber again. I can go to another startup, or I could find something in between. Or I actually had a really big idea of like opening up like a New York style pizza shop in Amsterdam because like I love pizza and that doesn't happen here.
Your bio, by the way. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna wait till exactly 45 minutes to ask you about that. But yes, yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. And then the other one was this whole solopreneur thing. And I got to credit Elena Verna, which I know everybody knows. Like she's been so vocal about it. And like I've just been following her and I love her content. So it really just like, you know, again, this is about what I was saying before. Like if you add the idea, add the option, and introduce the option, people can then make a better decision. So when I thought about what I want to do big corporation wise, I was like, I loved Uber so much. I was there in 2016 where it was still taking off, even though it was worth a lot. Like it was still a crazy wild, wild west. I'm not going to find that again. I mean, realistically, I don't feel like I'm going to be in this like cultural revolution like Uber was at the age where I was just willing to work as much as I want, just hang out with people and like, and I was also just surrounded by such smart people. And man, the data culture, like, you know, I just recently posted about it. Like Uber was data obsessed. Like they're by far the best company I've ever seen with data. Like just is like it's not even like leagues. Like it's literally like universes apart. Like it's just it was so good. So I was sort of like, you know, in such a good data environment. I'm not going to find that. And then I went to startups and I'm thinking about the problems on the nights and the weekends, but I'm taking below market rate. And for pre-seed seed companies that have a very like 99% chance they're not going to make it. The pizza thing was really interesting to me, and I still am doing that aside, but I realized New York pizza is a lot harder than I thought to make, so I wasn't ready to jump into that yet. And then it just became like the solopreneur thing, which I can balance, I can be and the mobility I think maybe is, to your point, the right word, but I think it's the mobility across every part of my life, right? It's not just mobility on the type of projects or the type of clients. It's on the mobility of, listen, like my kid is, 10 months old, but at some point he's going to have, 14 plus weeks of vacation in a year from school. Where else in the world can I ever take 14 weeks off? If I decide like I want to spend every day with my son or second kid or whatever, when they're on vacation, I can't do that anywhere else. So the mobility comes also geographically, right? Like we can work from anywhere. Mobility is for sure a part of it, but it's the fact that it's holistically mobile and it's such a dichotomy, right? Like you can only do this if you fully go into the solopreneur. There's no like middle ground. Like there's no like, I want to have the full-time salary, but like the part-time benefit, like, no, you choose one or the other. And so for me, the choice, I think, just became really obvious that way.
I think autonomy might be the right word then. Sundar.
Autonomy is.
Right?
Yeah.
I think autonomy is the right word. Because, mobility is more the lag metric and autonomy is really the lead.
That's a good one. That's a really good way to phrase that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So maybe it's control, but okay, let's stick with autonomy without the confuse. So, okay. So I got one more sort of open-ended question for you, then we're going to go into rocket round. So the open-ended question is, and you could take it whatever direction you want, but it's literally just, what would you tell yourself either a year ago or 3 years ago, or what would you tell someone in your shoes a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago? You name the timeline you want, but literally, what would you tell yourself?
I don't know if this is a cocky answer, but I would just say, just don't change anything. I
love it.
Like, I have lived my entire life with zero regrets, and I truly mean this. I'm not just like overwashing things that I could have regret. And I'm not just saying that. Actually, sorry, I'm going to restate this because I just think about something. in my interview at the US Treasury, and you can actually go to the person that interviewed me and they can quote me on this. They were like, how do you deal with stress? And I told them, I don't get stressed. And I think for me, it's such a mindset of so many people are trying to prevent, like, so they're reactive to it. It's like, I'm stressed, so I do this, so I alleviate my stress. I just, for whatever reason, maybe it's the way I'm built, maybe there's raised, I just don't get stressed. And I think a lot of it has just come from accepting. You have to very quickly accept things that you can control and really learn to let go of the things that you can't. And this is, and that's why, I'm going back, like, this is what I did 5 years ago. This is what I did 3 years ago. And so I always did take a long-term view as well, right? Like I was actually on a PIP at Uber. I'm very comfortable admitting this. And I actually wrote about this in one of my LinkedIn posts. And I just like hated the manager. And like, I would fight the PIP and I would fight the PIP. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just shooting myself in the foot. Like, clearly the power dynamic is this manager put me on a PIP. Like, you just got to do whatever it is to get over this PIP. So if you take this long-term view and you don't get stressed, it really just makes your decisions a lot easier to think about. Like, it just, like, because it goes back to this balance of what I said before, like, I'll make long-term decisions, but I won't be stressed if they don't go the way I want them to in the short run. And so then I just sort of course correct. So like, all right, just like it's just like forecasting, just like rechange your forecast, like reforecast essentially. So that's what I would tell myself. I don't know if that was, I really hope you don't think I was dodging the answer. That's really like how I truly feel.
No, I couldn't agree more in that. It was funny. I was on a podcast yesterday, and it was the actually, I think the exact question was like, how do you manage stress, or what's been the most stressful time? And I kind of have the same answer, because to me, how do I say it? I mean, now I have responsibility, right? But for the first 10 years of my life, like, I really had no responsibility whatsoever. And so anything that like work is, it's just work, and it's just money. Like, you're going to figure it out. And so I never get stressed about that. And I think the saying I would use is like, throw your ego at the door. But I also recognize that I think when I was like 22 to 26, maybe even to 28, like, I would be sort of emotional. And for example, like one of the first startups I was at, I built a product that ended up getting 1 million in pipeline in 2 months. And I think it was like 100,000 in sales in 2 weeks. And an older executive came in and stole it. And at the time I was like, fuck that, that's bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
it should be who gets the work. But then it was like, throw the ego at the door. What actually happened? Oh, this is a typical power dynamic in a hierarchical structure. It's not her fault. It's not my fault. It's just the way it is, and learn how to navigate it. And then it made life so much easier, so that at Microsoft, it was like, all right, we're going to have a hierarchical structure. How do you operate in a way that works best for you? And so throw the ego at the door, and I will, yeah, it's not a bad answer at all.
No, but I also love your approach that like that emotion probably never resurfaced at that magnitude again, right? Because you learned from the first time and you're like, well, I remember this happened. I think that's part of it too. Like for me, like I was like, I knew all the mistakes I made to go into the PIP.
Yeah.
And then after that, like literally post PIP, like my career just went like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
A lot of it because I just took that and I was like, listen, long term, this is actually better for me.
Yeah.
Like it actually was like the best thing that happened. I still have resentment towards the manager, but like, I'm actually really glad it happened. Like it was like the best thing that happened to me. And like, I don't know, it's just how you have to think about it.
Yeah. And the resentment is just data to avoid that person. And I will say, some of the best business people I've seen, when I was younger, I didn't get it. Now I kind of get it. I would look and I'd be like, how come this leader is not telling this other leader to go F themselves, right? I'd be like, how come they're not like doing that, right? And then now that I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, why would you make yourself notice? Like, just stay with the flow. Don't get on their good or bad side. Just avoid,
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
But I guess you kind of have to have things happen. I wonder though, now that you have kids, right? So for me, it's more so it's time to grow up. It's time to get the house. I have some, big expenses coming up.
Yeah.
We have a life form, right? We have a dog, so it's not a kid. but now there is some responsibility. So if I decide to go F around and move to Singapore to start a startup, okay, there's consequences. But for you, would you say that having a kid, how has having a kid really impacted your view on career?
Um, I think it's pushed a little bit more, like I was saying before, about the flexibility and the mobility. Like
Interesting.
it lets me really anchor to what is the most important in my life. And that was, if I don't want to work for 3 months because I just want to hang out with my kid, I could. Um, but otherwise, I mean, I don't know. It's so interesting, like the career stuff. Like I spent like my early 20s thinking like I really just wanted to be a career person. And the more I've worked and like, I don't care. I mean, like, I don't know a better way to put it. Like worst case, like I've saved up enough that I could go to like Chiang Mai and live a very, very comfortable life, like for the rest of my life. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a perspective of like, as long as like, I'm with my wife and kid, like, again, it's just perspective. It really, I think having a kid, like it really makes it so easy. It's so black and white. It's like, okay, what is more important? Like my kid versus anything. Like there's nothing that is more important, the kid, my wife. And so it just makes it, I think that the other, sorry, and I know I'm tangent, but like it used to be this concept of like work-life balance, right? And everyone keeps saying this, and I hate that phrase.
Yeah.
But you come into Europe, they do a really good job here of realizing work is a part of life. And so it's a subset of it. So by thinking about that, like I'm thinking about my life first and then thinking about how my career fits in. And so post kid, I'm now rethinking what I want my life to be like with my kid, and then what work now fits into that new lifestyle. And so it's just like a bit of it's just a bit of a thought exercise. Like, how does your life change? Like, what do you want to get out of life? But if you were doing that before, having a kid doesn't really like change it too much, like your mentality. You just get to like rethink it a bit more. That's it.
Yeah. Well, what's fascinating to me in hearing you say that is the flexibility actually is trumping the need for a stable salary with benefits. And that is such a deviation from what our parents did, right? And even from what a 10 plus year, 10 years ago, what it was. So, and I don't think everyone, like, I think people like you and I are weird. I think that we're not the normal necessarily, but I fully recognize that it must be tough. It must be tough, or having a full-time job is easier to just think things are taken care of, right? Like your taxes are taken care of, your healthcare. But with that said, you don't have the flexibility that you have, right? You don't have the autonomy to do that. So it's fascinating. I would actually reframe now the way that one of the career advice, and I would say you have to build two forts, which is your cash fort and your expertise fort. And then by the time you hit 30, you'll be sitting pretty. And that's actually kind of what I would tell my younger self now is like, don't worry, like do exactly what you did, grind it out until you're 30. And then that's when you'll be able to have the flexibility and autonomy. Not this bullshit, like you come out of school and do whatever you want. That's just, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. So I missed it. Do you have kids, or are you about to?
No,
Yeah.
we're I mean, here, look, okay, I'll give you, this is the extent of that right there, right? Which
It's so chill.
he's about as expensive as a kid.
Yeah.
Literally, his monthly has gone through the roof because he's got stomach problems, but it's okay.
Oh no.
But no, we're at the stage of let's get the house and that kind of stuff, right? So expenses went from kind of fun FU money to oh shit, okay, that's real. but yeah, so Sundar, so we got last thing is rocket round.
Yeah.
A couple quick questions. You got 17 seconds to answer. First one is where will we find you on a Friday and Saturday night in Amsterdam?
You're gonna be finding me at home. Like kids got to be in bed by 8 p.m.
Yes. Okay. At home, what will we find you doing? We talking board games? We talking shows? What's the typical activity for you?
Yeah, we're generally talking shows. So we like my wife and I, because now we only get like a few hours a night. It's usually TV.
And what shows?
Right now we're watching Ted Lasso.
Okay.
We love Ted Lasso. We really liked. And there's one like we're watching The Boys. I don't know. We've watched like almost everything on Netflix. Like we watch everything. I'm like, it's weird when you ask me, I'm like blanking on what we actually watch because we watch so much. We watch like Daisy Jones and the Six on Prime. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No. I'm the loser that just watches whatever Farnia does and just smiles and go, yeah, it's great.
There's who does?
Whatever Farnia watches, whatever. Yeah. So, and it's so quick. So last night we're on like I'm a venture partner at a future work fund. And so it's like this serious meeting, right? And my office, like literally it's in the living room because we're in a 1-bedroom now. But Farney is watching Vanderpump Rules. So like as I'm having these serious discussions about like what's the what are our portfolio companies looking like, yada. I'm like looking at her watching Vanderpump Rules and all this just bullshit reality stuff. So it was hilarious. But okay, let's say you get 3 hours free, right? Kids are taken care of. Where is the restaurant or bar, whatever you guys go to? What is the restaurant of choice in Amsterdam?
Yeah, so it's again not trying to dodge the answer. There's this market called Albert Kelp, and it's got like incredible stroopwafels, but it has this stall called Twins Olives with like run by a bunch of Moroccan guys with the best Mediterranean dips like on the planet. Like
oh, we have to visit you now.
Yeah, so much so that during the pandemic, we would go with like 7 like containers filled up with like 7 different dips for the week because we would just eat it for lunch every day and like didn't get sick of it.
Oh my
so
God.
Good. So like that's where we're at, like 3 hours, like just strolling around, getting a little mini pancakes, a little like stroopwafel, like this wrap. There's like a really good like bao bun like truck there that my wife loves. So that's what we're doing. It's so gorgeous out. Like Amsterdam, I don't know if you visited, but Amsterdam in the summer might be like the best place in the world.
It's my favorite city in Europe. Hands down, favorite city in Europe.
Good.
And I got very sick off the waffles because I had 4 and had to sprint home to the hotel. It was boy were those waffles worth it. So last 2 questions. Favorite book?
Lord of the Rings.
Love it. And then favorite animal and why?
Great white shark.
And why?
It's just like crazy to think, just like millions of years of evolution. Like it is literally the perfect machine. Like it's just like mind-boggling to think like what this thing can do. Like it's just, I mean, I really wanted to go cage diving in South Africa until I learned like the human animal rights were not so great, and which I was like, well, I don't want to do it. But if I could, in like a very like ethical way, I would love to see a great white shark. Like, oh man, it would be the highlight of my life.
That is so awesome. All right, Sundar, I'm going to show you Luca one last time because he's now awake for some reason. I think you woke him up, and he's now giving the face of. But I've got back-to-backs till 1, so like, look at him. He looks at us being like, what the fuck? I am your life. Take me out. But Sundar, where can our listeners find you?
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm really open. Like I love talking to people about their challenges, especially marketplaces. Like, and I'm not about trying to like sell myself. Like I really just like solving problems. So find me on LinkedIn, hit me up, connect with me, and follow my journey. If you're interested in what it's like to be a solopreneur, literally from $0, then I'm your man.
I love it. Sundar, thanks so much for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for your time too.